I'm Drew,
And I'm Tony.
and this is Back for Our Future, a show that looks back at our past, maybe yours, maybe something for you to learn about, and then we go forward from there. But we're back with maybe it's become this weird thing that's happened, Tony, where we've had these episodes where, somebody that we have enjoyed their artistic endeavors, their acting or their music or whatever it may be. We've enjoyed their stuff, and they've made an impact in our lives, not just relevant to the show, because a lot of these individuals have been current or past our initial show side. And we're back with maybe one of the most brutal episodes in terms of, like, we have had a substantial number of people pass away that have made an impact on this world. And so today we're going to talk about them.
Oh, absolutely.
A little
And
tribute, if you will.
another big one we had, we had the episode obviously with like Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne, Malcolm Jamal Warner, and Chuck Mangione, and that was like four people in like a week, and I thought that one was pretty rough. And now we got four more people that all went within about a week of each other. So it's like it's pretty tough when you lose them so fast like that. And I want to start out with one of my all time favorite sitcom actors, quite honestly. And when I was a kid growing up, um, Sanford and Son was kind of the show. It was one of my all time favorite shows, and I was really big into most of the Norman Lear shows. And Sanford and Son was one of my all time favorites. I loved Red Fox. Obviously, as a child, I didn't get to listen to his his stand up routines as much, right? But I definitely watched Sanford and Son all the time, and I love Lamont, the son, and he was played by Damon Wilson, who was pretty brilliant, and he's mostly noted for Sanford and Son, but did some other stuff too, and he passed away about a week or so back, and he had kind of been in and out of the industry after Sanford and Son. I mean, he did some stuff after that, and we'll get to some of these credits that he had. But I mean, pretty pretty notable, just in the Sanford and Son name itself. And then, he had done some other TV, like he popped in for an episode of Mission Impossible, All in the Family, of course, which is another Norman Lear production, and that's how he got on the radar for Sanford and Son by doing All in the Family first, and then of course he'd pop in on like shows like Rowan and Martin's Laughing, and and then of course he did Sanford and Son for 135 episodes, and
Ooh.
I know his favorite parts of that were like the first two or three seasons, and then I know he didn't enjoy doing it as much on the last couple seasons. He said even by his own admission, he was phoning it in on those last couple of seasons, but because there was so much stuff going on behind the scenes. But then he'd come back and he'd do a short-lived sitcom called Baby I'm Back, which he was the star of, and that was 13 episodes. And of course, he was on the Love Boat, like so many others have been, right? And then did in 1982-83 he did the New Odd Couple with him and Ron Glass.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
which is
forgot about that.
yeah, which
Yeah.
is a show actually. It was on for like 18 episodes or something like that. But so one season basically, but not too bad. They've done several incarnations of the Odd Couple over the decades, and that was one of them. And then he kind of got away from the industry and went into more being a preacher and getting more into the church. And then over he just did a few odds and ends things after that, just three or four credits. And probably his most notable was going into the TV show Girlfriends. He did like 4 or 5 episode arc of that show, and in 2004, 2005, and his last credit was at Eleanor's Bench, which is a TV series, and a couple of years ago. So Damon Wilson, one of the great sitcom stars of the '70s, and yeah, there's not a lot of people remaining from Sanford and Son. As a matter of fact, the only two people remaining from Sanford and Son that were part of the recurring cast are the two cops, um,
Wow.
Hoppy. So yeah, so
Yeah.
it's kind of rough to see all those great actors from that show go.
It's interesting because I was reading some stuff and was thinking about, and it was leading me down this path of, our specific generation, our age bracket. We grew up in a time where the old school was still around, like traditional type stuff, and then new technologies or whatever you want to say, media, everything was emerging. But we grew up with these classic sort of stars being in that role. So like Red Fox is this raunchy, really funny comedian. Like you listen to him now and it's edgy, but it's good. And you have Red Fox who steps into that role, and to be on that show was amazing because he was kind of the initial star attraction, and other people built their names and built careers off of it, like Demond. But the bigger part of that that's interesting is what this newer side of television doesn't seem to get is like shows back then, back in the day, if you were an established star and you went to TV, that was okay. But it was very difficult to make the move from TV to movies,
Right.
back in that window. And that carried through the 90s a good bit. But once we started getting all these like crazy streaming shows and all that kind of content, the way that an episode shows only being like 12 episodes, how many did you say you did? 135?
135 for Sanford and Son. Yeah, I mean, used to do. I mean, network TV still, 20 something episodes usually. It's just
Right.
depending on what you sign as part of the deal, but usually like 22 episodes somewhere in there. And back in the day, it used to be more like 25 and sometimes 28.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, quite a bit. And 135 episodes for Sanford and Son was a lot because Red Fox didn't even do 135 episodes because he had that contract dispute and
Yep.
things like that. So he was out for like an entire season, and Whitman Mayo had to pretty much replace him. Great, because there's like a whole entire season where it's just Grady
Yeah.
and Lamont. So if you watch Sanford and Son, I've seen every episode dozens of times. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty great show. But yeah, I mean, I mean, Red Fox is obviously Fred Sanford, and the show is supposed to be kind of centered on him and his son, obviously. But Red Fox being the top billing guy, but Damon Wilson had more episodes than Red Fox by a lot.
Right. Right.
Red had, like I said, the contract dispute. He was out for a while, and Damon Wilson went the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like it's just interesting because nowadays, you have people like that girl from a TV show that we won't name because it triggers you, but that individual went on to like she went from her first appearance being on this show that was a streaming show, and now all of a sudden has had film appearances, like theatrical films. Like the transition is different than it used to be, and that's why I was bringing it up. Is like he committed to that show, and I get also why eventually you probably get a little burned out because like what else
Oh,
do I want to do something else,
no, absolutely. I mean, nowadays you see it's not uncommon to see a pretty big name do a TV show. Just do like the 10 episodes for whatever streaming service, fill in there, and then that's it. I mean, and then they'll come back and they'll do. I mean, you see big names do it all the time now. It's not that uncommon, but yeah, it was definitely then. I mean, you didn't see a lot of huge movie stars doing TV shows by any means.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame. He'll be missed. I'm sure his family, obviously, but also his congregation and all the great stuff he did in his church. I'm sure that'll be missed as well. So rest in peace for him and everything that's going on with it. But this is an unfortunate episode where we, like you said in the beginning, we're into another 4-pack here, and we step into, interestingly enough, a musician who
Yep.
lived right around the corner from where we used to live. Like he
Yeah.
was right there, right near the subway. We've talked about the subway before. He was in that neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken, right behind the subway.
Yeah, he wasn't too far, man. I mean, um, so the band Three Doors Down, is like we kind of knew about them before they kind of broke, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
they were a band that came out, started they kind of formed in 1996, and we haven't gotten to 1996 yet by any means, but they didn't get big until about 2000 when they broke their first album, and of course the song Kryptonite and all that, and so they got big around that time. But they're from Mississippi, and they used to be in Alabama all the time. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
they would be in Foley and all these places all the time. So they were big in that area. So it was not uncommon to know about Three Doors Down before they actually became a big band, and they didn't really get big until later on. And of course, we'll talk about you and I having our house and stuff like that back later on, and living on the Border Drive house with all the guys.
Oh yeah.
But that's when they became big during that time frame. But yeah, I mean they were a tour. I mean they were a regional band by 1996 through 2000. So yeah, pretty good band. And of course we're talking about lead singer Brad Arnold, who passed away tragically here at the age of 47. And yeah, that's
So the crazy part is they're in our peer group. That was the thing that was crazy about those guys is that they were
absolutely.
in our. I mean, they're within 3 years of both of us, and so they're in our peer group age wise. Like we're knocking on the door of those guys. So when we knew about them, and the thing about their part of their connection to Mobile was, if I'm not mistaken, where they were from might have been a smaller town, and I think the closest bigger city to them was Mobile. So like, Biloxi's not massive, but it wasn't super huge back in the day, and I don't remember if the casinos had fully come on over there yet or not, but they weren't as big of a city, and Mobile was the biggest city. So of course, kind of like even the Red Clay Strays now. Red Clay Strays technically from I'm going to say it, technically from Daphne, Alabama, in my mind, because that's where I know them from. I saw those kids, and Matt that works with me grew up with them. But they claim Mobile as home because it's it's the biggest city that they're closest to. It's
Yeah,
kind of how it works out sometimes.
yeah. And he was born in Escatawpa, Mississippi,
Yep.
and of course they recorded in Biloxi, and
Yep.
Biloxi, hop, skip, and a jump from Mobile. It's just not that far. So I mean, yeah, I mean it's and these guys ended up, I mean, they ended up putting together a pretty nice catalog for themselves. They had 6 studio albums, and they had some hits, man, in there. So I mean, whether or not I mean, I always thought they're a nice band. They're a good band. Good rock band. I mean, my all time favorite, no, but good band. I mean,
Yeah, and we're being kind about it because but the reality for me was, and I'll just say it and be the bad guy, is that of all songs next to the entire catalog of the band live.
it's not the entire catalog. Not the entire catalog.
It's an ongoing joke. But I was not I respected them as musicians. I loved the fact that they were local. I couldn't stand to hear that song Kryptonite because at the time we didn't have a college radio station close. We didn't even really have an alternative radio station close. What we had was something called TK 101, who I don't know if we've gotten to these stories yet. I don't know if we've told the stories about us driving around and just calling these dudes. I don't know if that's happened yet, where we would just blow up TK 101.
Coming
Yeah.
up the year
Yeah.
show.
So TK would play when this band got big on that song because they had regional attraction, they had or connections, and that song was popular. I feel like TK 101 played only that song. That and something by Creed. Just a song by Creed. I don't know Creed's catalog. I can
Well,
sing it. Higher. How about that one?
no, I mean, listen, Kryptonite and the song "Loser" off that album, that first album, got played a lot.
They did.
And listen, I mean, I think everybody who listens to this show can be can empathize with the fact that when you hear a song a billion times on the radio, it you get tired of it. It just, I mean, more than likely, I'm not.
Yeah, dude.
everybody. I'm not going to say that for everybody because there's songs that when I turn them on a disc or something, I might listen to it 10 times in a row. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But that's usually because I haven't heard it in a very long time or something. And I love that song. But if it's not something you just immediately loved, um, if you hear it a billion times, you're just like, just like you with live. When you hear Lightning
Their
Crash,
entire catalog.
they're
Entire catalog.
not their entire catalog, but the song Lightning Crashes. There's no doubt. Of course, you can't stand that. I played it
I hate it.
times over and over and over. And of course, with that song too, and we're getting off base a little bit here, but with that song too, it's so melodic.
Yeah.
It's so melodic that when you're listening to TK 101 or something like that, they're playing harder music and heavier music all day, right up until they get to live. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
at least with Three Doors Down, they were a little bit heavier, for the most
They're
part.
not. They're not. By no means am I saying they're a bad band. They're in fact very good, and their lyrics were very good. I just got tired of their songs very quick, and the the southern element that they brought to the table now is more interesting than it was then. Right. So it's not like these guys were a southern rock band, but if you listen to it, there's some. You go back and listen to like some Skinnerd and you get down that I mean, Ted Nugent technically isn't southern, but he kind of has that vibe. If you go listen to some, they were kind of pulling from those. And as I've matured and appreciated more and more music, I appreciate the fact that like those guys were able to at a young age capture a massive audience. Whereas
Yeah.
I was like, at whatever age I was when I first heard them, I was probably into something else, ska or punk or whatever random bit of music I was into at the moment. These guys were able to be timeless, and you can't. I can never take that away, and that comes a lot from what Brad wrote. Like he wrote some incredibly good lyrics, and he had to, his voice fit their sound. Like there's no doubt about it in the world. So I hate that he passed away because he's a year younger than I am currently. Or actually, we're the same age currently, but I hate it
Yeah.
for him. That's no
He's a,
bueno.
he's a good bit older than me. But,
Right?
still
Yeah, that's accurate.
very accurate. Um, and by the way, Ted Ted Nugent Ted Nugent is the Motor City Madman. He's from Detroit, dude. He's not.
Yeah, but he's got his rock is kind of southern.
He dives. I definitely over the course of time, some of those songs have been called Southern rock.
Like Stranglehold. Stranglehold is really close to a southern rock song. Like it has that vibe.
I know that's it's kind of been jettisoned to that genre for sure, but because of his love for hunting and things like that. But it's kind of funny how the Motor City Madman has all of a sudden become like this person that's been closely affiliated with being like a hillbilly or something.
Well, I mean, they call him Uncle Ted. He's got lots of guns, and he lives in Texas, I think now. So, I mean,
Yeah, it's just funny how that's kind of come about because he was the Motor City Madman for the
yeah.
longest time. All right, man.
Well, that brings up two gut punches in a row. Like
Yeah,
if the first two weren't enough, life decided to throw us two pretty hard ones. And so that brings us to the passing of Katherine O'Hara. And I gotta be straight up. My God, man, she is one of the funniest women. There are roles that she's had that are timeless. Again, Home Alone is one of those, and I'm sure we'll talk about all these. But she is one of the funniest, most endearing and hilarious, and doesn't mind making fun of herself. And then she turned around and towards the now end of her career, she ends up being this like really strict, kind of obscure character on Last of Us, and it was like an amazing turn. It was some really dramatic chops. It's just bizarre. I'll let you carry it from there. I just wanted to say like she's one of my all-time favorites, and that one was one of the ones that like kind of it felt heavy. It was a heavy blow for me.
no, she's great, and the thing about her career is that she kind of comes up kind of like the sketch player, right? So I mean, back in the '70s, she's on SCTV, and that's kind of where she's going to make her get her name out there, and her acting chops, of course, and is sketch TV. So she's got some smaller credits and things like that leading into it, and then she's on SCTV, and of course that's where all the a lot of these big names are broken, right? Like John Candy and Joe Flaherty and Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin, Rick Moranis and Harold Ramis and Martin Short and Dave Thomas and all these guys, right? And SCTV is. And for those of you not familiar with SCTV, obviously it's kind of like a more Canadian version of Saturday Night Live. And I used to watch it as a kid, but you had to find it. It was one of those
Yeah.
things it wasn't as easy to find in the States all the time, and NBC would pick it up and put it on like Friday nights and in the early '80s, and they're hard episodes to find. Like you can find them now on YouTube a little bit, and that's kind of where you got to get them. There are some DVDs that were released, but because SCTV was the more guerrilla of the shows between them and Saturday Night Live, they pretty much kind of lifted and stole their music when they put it on when they put it
Yeah.
on. So it would cost millions and millions of dollars to get the rights to all these songs. That's why it's not always been put on DVD. So you can only get certain episodes on DVD or find like a best of, like a John Candy or something like that. I know there's a John Candy DVD that's out there, like a best of SCTV. But other than that, it's hard to find. And this is kind of where this is really where she gets her big, big break, and then she's going to go into just tons of credits. But before we get to that, you have something on SCTV. I know you like SCTV.
Dude, I love. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's in that same era. You put them. This is back to the WCW and Raw situation. There are two amazing products. They're both putting out amazing stuff. Typically, if I had to pick one or the other, I used to would have said SNL, but when I've gone back, and it started with us talking about John Candy, and I just went down this rabbit hole. There are skits on SCTV that literally make my stomach hurt. I'm laughing so hard. It is, and the quality of talent that has come from that, of like obviously John Candy, Martin Short, Katherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy. You get so many people that are so funny and so quirkily funny. Like they're the kind of funny that just lingers and it just sits, and they're charismatic is what it really comes down to. I'm a big I if you haven't had a chance, if you go dig around on YouTube, like Tony said, you can find just playlist after playlist of absolute hilarity. It's well worth it. Totally worth it.
Oh, absolutely. And she's and she's gonna come up kind of as a TV actress, for a long time. And but I mean, SCTV is without question just, you can find those episodes. Like I said, you can find a lot of them on places like YouTube and on various social media. They'll throw them up quite a bit, so you can find a lot of that kind of stuff. At least to watch some of the all time classics. I think she's gonna get her first big like movie role, right, on with Martin Scorsese of all people, and she's gonna do the movie After Hours, which is an early
Oh yeah.
Scorsese movie in the mid '80s, and she's going to do that role, and then she's going to get a really good role a year later in a Mike Nichols movie that's pretty underrated, with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep, called Heartburn, and
Oh yeah.
she's actually really quite good in that movie, and this is where she's going to get her film acting chops, right, and then of course a couple years later, here comes Beetlejuice,
My God.
which is just one of the great comedies slash Halloween films, whatever genre you'd like to put this movie into of all time. So it's and of course that cast is Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Catherine O'Hara. I mean, it's everybody. So it's a huge cast, and she's a big part of it, and that movie's just timeless.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. And again, what's the craziest thing about when we go over this list is it's just one timeless banger after another. It's
Yeah.
absolutely insane.
So she plays Texie Garcia in Dick Tracy,
Yep.
uh, which is the first movie that I ever will ever see at midnight. So 1990. I had this. We've talked about it. I had this shirt that said "I was there first," and it was a ticket on the shirt. And
Yeah.
you had to have this shirt in order to go to this movie, right? Because the shirt was the ticket, and so you had to have the shirt on, and you had to go into the theater. And I went with another buddy of mine who was in town at the time from Kansas City, and we went to this midnight showing of Dick Tracy together. And so yeah, and she was part of that. And then, of course, she's in Betsy's Wedding with Alan Alda and
Yeah.
Molly Ronald. And at this time, she's still working with her, SCTV co-star. She's popping on specials with like Dave Thomas and people like that. So she never got out of that. Like her and Eugene Levy were very close for their entire lives. And she always worked with these people. And you'll see it as we go on in her credits. I mean, just even more so. And she did an episode of Dream On, which was a great show on HBO, and then of
Yep.
course in 1990 she gets a little role in a little movie that people are still watching very much to this day and still very much talking about called Home Alone.
Yep. It's a classic. And what's funny is in that role, she's very good at not being over the top. A lot of her characters she's a character actor, so she's normally over the top. But in this case, she's not crazy over the top. She's just a mom trying to get, who by happenstance forgot her kid and has to go back and get him, and goes on this journey. And that role is what a lot of people know her from, but it's a very solid performative role. It's good, but it's not necessarily one that I would be like, oh, this is her greatest comedy role. She's funny in it. She's fun in it, but she's a fantastic mom in it.
Well, she's not supposed to be funny in it, really. She's supposed to
Right.
be it's supposed to be the more serious, uh, role in the movie. To be real honest with you,
Right.
it comes off because there's elements in the movie where she comes off as funny because she's got such great delivery, and
Yep.
she's got timing and delivery. So, and in some of these scenes, she's playing off of John Candy, of course, in this movie, because a
Yep.
lot of a lot of what she does in the movie is in those scenes with John Candy. And since the movie is pretty much Kevin Arnold, you know trying to get Kevin Arnold, I said Kevin Arnold, Kevin McAllister,
I
wrong
know you meant.
wrong child, and Kevin McAllister, he's trying to get away from all the from the burglars. And so this movie spent there, but you got these great scenes where she's you know working with John Candy away from those from what's happening at the house. So that it's pretty brilliant. And then she goes off and does stuff like Larry Sanders Show, which of course is Gary Shandling and all
Yep.
the all those amazing people that had been on that show, and does There Goes the Neighborhood, which was a movie she did, and then comes back and does Home Alone 2 in much the same way, funny, and comes to New York, and that whole hilarity ensues again. Um, and then does you know The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is another
That's crazy. It's
an
crazy.
amazing film, and
Yep.
it gets shown in between Halloween and Christmas time. And then she's got a bunch of different roles, some of which are serious, some of which have comedic elements. But she's in Michael Keaton's movie The Paper. She's in Kevin
Yep.
Costner's Wyatt Earp. She's in Steve Martin's movie A Simple Twist of Fate. I mean, you getting it, right? It's like she can work alongside any actor in the
Yep.
lexicon of Hollywood. And then she's got just a ton of other stuff here, Waiting for Guffman, and she's in Home Fries with Drew Barrymore. Um, she does some stuff
Then
on
we
that.
hit
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Then we hit my all-time favorite role. My all-time favorite role of hers is Cookie Fleck in Best in
Best
Show.
show.
That's one
Best
of my favorite movies of all time, but
yeah.
her role in that is so freaking good. When she passed, Sarah and I, my wife and I, we were both sad about it, and we immediately turned on Best in Show because her and Eugene, everybody in that movie is amazing, but her and Eugene just have these scenes that are so brilliant that it's, and she shows up in more of this stuff, but like those two together are, as that couple, are just perfect. They're just perfect.
I mean, obviously working with in those like Christopher Guest type movies and stuff like that. I mean, she's perfect for that stuff. I mean, she can ad lib, she can do all the sketch
Yep.
stuff, and she's worked with all the people that are in them, so she can bounce right off of everybody, and she's brilliant. I mean, it's an absolutely brilliant role. There's no doubt about that. And comes back, comes back later on in a movie that we both really enjoyed called Orange County,
Love it.
and she's great in that. Orange County is a wonderful movie, and of course, then has a couple other movies. We're skipping over. We're not doing every single credit because she's got a couple hundred credits. So, but
It's
then
crazy amounts. Yeah.
yeah, she comes back as Mickey Crowd in A Mighty Wind, which is
Which is also brilliant, which is absolutely another one where you just get this performance. And then we'll get to one more, which is my second favorite role of hers of all time. But this one's solid, super solid.
in 2004. She's going to do a movie that I think is kind of an underrated Christmas movie, called Surviving Christmas, which is
Mm-hmm.
her and James Gandolfini and Ben Affleck and Christina Applegate. I mean, it's a pretty good cast, and it's kind of doesn't really get talked about during Christmas time as much because it wasn't like a huge hit when it came out, but it's a pretty good movie. So check that one out as well. And of course, she's got a pretty decent role in that. And then she does a movie with Michael Keaton called Game Six, which was pretty good. Um, she's got she's got a handful of episodes on the great TV show 6 Feet Under, which
Yeah.
is a classic. And she's in the movie Chicken Little,
Yeah.
doing 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 a voice because she had a great voice, and she does a lot of voice work as well. Same thing with like Over the Hedge and Monster House and all that stuff. So she's got all these great voice roles, right? And yeah, she's gonna be in Away We Go. And
Well,
of
can we talk about for your consideration just
course,
1 second?
I did. I kind of skipped over it. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, look. If you've never seen that movie, I know I don't get a Drew's pick of the week, but if you need to go, you should watch that movie. It is so obnoxious. It's so brilliant. Eugene Levy's amazing in it, but she steals the show. Marilyn Hack steals the show, and when you get to the end, it is one of the greatest little gags I've ever seen in history of filmmaking. I adore it to no end. It's just a very brilliant, well-made movie. If you have a chance, it's another Christopher Guest movie, but that's my second favorite role of all time, and it's literally because all of her hard work on this character pays off in one scene at the end that's just so stupid. It's brilliant. Anyway, go
Uh,
ahead. Please continue.
Listen, the Christopher Guest movies. I mean, there's a lot of people who probably haven't seen them because they
Right.
weren't by any means like huge monster hits, right? I mean, they were all in theaters. They all did pretty well, but they weren't like. I mean, they're always going up against something massive, and it's kind of a counter programming movie, and so people might need to catch up on those. But For Your Consideration is one of the greats, of course, and she's going to do a movie called Where the Wild Things Are, which is going to put her back
Oh
with
yeah.
James Gandolfini. And listen, this it's a classic. It's a classic book, of course, and I really did like the movie as well. But she does a voice in that, and again, she's got such a great voice. In addition to being a great actress, and of course, um, all her delivery and her timing is just impeccable, right? Um, she does Killers, she does Simple Grindin', and you know, does Frankenweenie. She's does an episode of 30 Rock because I mean everybody who's good has to be on 30 Rock at some point in time, right? I mean
Yep.
that just makes perfect sense. Um,
Oh yeah.
and of course she's going to do a ton of TV. Um, and TV, and she's got a great spot on a show called A Series of Unfortunate Events as well, which is pretty cool. Um, she does the voice of in the Addams Family cartoon,
Yeah.
the cartoon, and then of course she's going to. And then, of course, during this whole time frame, and when the show starts in 2015, she's going to be on back with Eugene on Schitt's Creek, of course, with the
Yes.
yes, with Eugene and Dan and Sarah and all these people in the Levy clan, and yeah, I mean, Schitt's Creek is a wonderful show.
Dude, it's
If you've never
here
watched it,
here yeah,
it's
worth
absolutely
it.
great. It's I mean, when I knew this show was coming out and I knew it was going to have all these folks in it, I was like, yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be, and it really is quite incredible.
So what I love about what one of my favorite things about Schitt's Creek is the fact that the show started out, if I'm not mistaken, on a very small network. It was not on a traditional network. I think it was on like
Yeah, right.
something America, or it was some random, and the show just in a time when things are going viral, because we're talking 2015 to 2020, the show itself goes viral and blows up this network, and it literally that show was the anchor programming. There might have been some wrestling or something, but it was a big part of whatever this initial network was where they launched. And because it was not a big, maybe it was pop, it just wasn't a big network. Then they just blow up and it just goes from there, and it's the funniest, pardon the pun, shit you'll ever see. Totally worth a watch if you've never seen it. It's just enjoyable. You get like 80 episodes out of it, so you're gonna have a good time, and you got plenty to watch on it just to keep it going. But everybody on that show is brilliant. Every single person.
Oh, every cast member, yeah, absolutely, without question. But yeah, it originally broke on CBC television, which is
Yeah.
not to be confused with CBS, and
Yep.
so that was kind of where that came about. So yeah, exactly. And then it just blew up from there and started winning awards and Emmys and everything else. And yeah, I mean it was massive. And like you said, every single cast member is brilliant, from Eugene and Dan and Sarah and Katherine O'Hara and Chris Elliott's on the show, which is
Yep.
absolutely amazing. And yeah, you could go on and on about the cast on that show. But and then after that, of course,
She ends up doing this show, a kids show called The Last Kids on Earth, which is a book series my kids read. And I did not even know she did that. So I'm seeing this. I've watched a lot of this stuff with my kids. It might have been on the Trigger Word network. But she did. I didn't know she was a voice on there. I had no idea. Just because, again, her voiceover stuff is crazy. To
no,
kind of carry it on. So
does a lot of voiceover work, and then of course comes back to do Beetlejuice, which is
yeah, boy.
which was a good movie, and I enjoyed that one. And then she's on the TV series The Last of Us, which
Yeah,
is
very good role. Heavy role.
well, and then is in the finishes up her career and on the studio,
Good
which
God, the studio is one of the greatest things ever created.
is
And she is so good. She's so good in it.
yeah, it is a great show for anyone who hasn't watched it. I think you and I have talked about the studio quite a bit, um, and it it makes sense. I mean, our level of enjoyment from a show like that is going to be probably different than somebody else's level of enjoyment on that,
Yep.
because as
Yep.
good as the show is and as funny as it is, like I laugh for a very different reason than somebody that's not in the industry would laugh at that show.
Yep.
So I mean, like the jokes might have to get tailored to somebody a little bit more, but for me, like in you're for both of us, of course, it's funnier because even the small stuff is funny because there's things in that
Yep.
there's nuances in that show that if you're in the industry or have ever been in the industry and you know lingo or terminology or you know where people are supposed to be on a set, it's really funny to watch it all go down on that
Yeah.
show. And of course, you know, with that veteran group of people having created that, they know exactly what to put into it and what not to put into it, and that's what makes it brilliant. So yeah, kind of a great way for to go out on your for your career, and she has got dozens and dozens and dozens of credits, and I didn't even get to them all. So if I skip something that you've enjoyed over the years with her, yeah, I apologize, but that's what happens when you're so talented and so great, and have made so many friends that like she has that you work all the time, which is a nice thing.
Yep. Yeah, she again, all of her stuff is fun. Her catalog is good. You can have you're never going to be bored watching her. All of her movies are either going to make you laugh, they're going to make you feel something. Doesn't matter what it is. You're just going to get you're going to they're good. She put out quality work. It's really insane like looking at it like this, which is why we do these kind of tributes. When you go back and look at the body of work, not just saying, "Oh, I remember she was in that," or when you start putting all this into context, this she has been in some of my favorite, whether it's some of it's even animation, but she's been in some of my top pieces of content, whether it's a movie or a show of the last 30 years. She's always in there somewhere. Like her name will pop up in my space. Even the movie like Wild Robot was my favorite movie of 2024. Well,
Yeah,
second favorite. Substance was first, which is bizarre that I mixed those two together, but that's what happens.
right.
But I loved Wild Robot. It was a brilliant movie. And she's a voice in that. She's Pinktail.
Yeah.
Just nuts, dude. It's just nuts.
Wild Robot is also a great film, and again, another great voice in that movie. She had an iconic voice, so it made sense that she's got all this great voiceover work as well. And then we get to a guy who just passed away. Another tragic one because he's so young, and that's James Van Der Beek.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a there's a weird part of his passing that makes me deal with emotional stuff is that we used when my company first started, we had a young guy that wanted to come intern with us and young kid. And he came to work for us. His name was David. And he came to work for us and we were talking to him. It was like, David, what do you want to do? He was like, oh, I want to be a filmmaker. I was like, we're not going to call you David. So this kid's name was Dawson. I introduced him as Dawson. I introduced him to clients as Dawson. This kid was only noted, and he responded to Dawson with yes, sir. He would just respond to it. Unfortunately, one day I get a call from his mom who he didn't show up for work for a couple of days. And he was kind of a stray cat sometimes. And I just thought maybe he was, out having fun, being young. He was 21 years old. His mom called to tell me he had passed away.
Oh wow!
So like it's a very personal moment, but it was because of James Van Der Beek's role as Dawson on Dawson's Creek that my Dawson got that name. Like it was a whole thing that just landed. So
Yeah.
when James Van Der Beek passed away, it was just another painful reminder of how fragile life can be. How old was James Van Der Beek when he passed away?
48.
48. So he's my age. So it makes it even worse now that I know that.
Right.
But it's just a painful reminder of like that was something that we kind of pushed onto him, and then our guy passed away. I still have the first check he apparently I ever wrote him. He kept, and it hangs up in the hallway of our office for people to look at and know that like, we have a beginning. All right, so James Van Der Beek, that's my tie to Dawson. I just wanted to share that story because it's very personal for me. I hated to see him pass away. He had cancer. Is that correct?
Yeah, he had colon cancer.
Colon
Yeah.
cancer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tragic.
Which is obviously anybody passing away. I think pretty much everybody we've talked about today had cancer of some kind. I don't know if that was the I know I don't know exactly what the model was. I know he had cancer. I don't know what. There's always something else that goes along with it sometimes, but
Yeah.
so what ends up being the cause of death, quote unquote. But yeah, I know that everybody had an underlying cancer diagnosis at some point. And James Van Der Beek is pretty well documented because I don't people weren't expecting it. He's got this amazing family of like 6 kids and a wife, and seemed to be this really really great husband and father, very devoted, and he had like this ranch, and so I think it was pretty unexpected. Obviously, when you're 48 years old, you're not really expecting to have you. I mean, by the time he had found out, he had stage 3 colon cancer. So by the time you find out, he had
Right.
stage colon cancer. But uh, his credits are, his work, his body work is pretty amazing. I mean, it's he's done a lot of stuff. It's funny because he's on this. His first role is on a show called Clarissa Explains It All, which is
Oh, I forgot he was on that. I used to love a Nickelodeon show.
yeah, he was only like one or two episodes, but that's kind of where he cut his teeth, right? And then he was on a show, or not a show, but a movie. He was in a movie. He played Rick Sanford in the movie Angus, and that's like his next
Oh
role.
yeah.
And
Wow.
my buddy Brian Pitt and I did a movie several years back, and the guy who played the role of Angus would pop up onto our set. And I remember him coming to my office door, and my buddy Brian going be like, "Hey, I'm sending a surprise over to you." And here was the guy who played the role of Angus right at my door, right, and that was Charlie Talbert.
Yeah.
Charlie Talbert was
Yep.
sitting at my door, and I'm like, and he was much older, obviously by this point. He's because Angus is he's much younger, and but I knew who he was, and he's like, "Oh, you already know who I am," and I was like, "I do," and I was like, "I'm a big fan of the movie and everything else," but it was kind of a funny thing that kind of happened while I was on a set, and sometimes that happens.
That's great.
You run into somebody that you're not really supposed to run into just because um, you just happen to work in an industry where actors and stuff will sometimes go to different sets, and it happens a lot more when you're like in Los Angeles and stuff. And we were doing that movie in Los Angeles, and people will just pop in on sets. That's kind of one of the fun things about getting to do the job. A lot of times is getting to meet people that
Yep.
aren't in your movie, which is kind of cool. And then he does James Van Der Beek's going to do a handful of episodes on As the World Turns, which I think is going to kind of set him
Hmm.
up, right, for what's coming. And his next big role, and he's going to do a movie. He's going to do a movie that's in 1996 called "I Love You, I Love You Not," and he's going to play this kind of role that's going to set him up for what's coming next, which is, of course, arguably his most iconic role, which is Dawson Leary, of course, on Dawson's Creek.
Yep.
Which is from 1998 to 2003, and it's a huge show. And he's going to do 128 episodes, um, and of course it was created and directed a lot by Kevin Williamson. Sorry, I
Right.
said Kevin Williamson. Of course, who did Scream and all those fun movies. And at the time when I'm living in 1998, 2003. I'm not a big Dawson's Creek watcher at the time.
Right.
I've obviously seen a couple episodes because it was Kevin Williamson, but I hadn't watched the show entirely. I won't see the entire show until much later down the road. But this cast is just very phenomenal, right? Like you've got
Yeah.
James Van Der Beek, and you got Katie Holmes, and you got Michelle Williams, and it's a really great cast, and I'll follow everybody's career. Of course, that comes off the show. That's what made it kind of a special show in a lot of ways. So, Dawson's Creek, not necessarily something I was watching then, but an iconic show without question.
Absolutely. It's funny because there's that song that I don't want to wait, which was part of their theme song. And dude, I don't know how many times I have sung that in reference to that show on one of our film sets. Like it became an audio meme for us
Right.
for a long time. And so it's like I again haven't watched much of the show because it was in an era when I really didn't care about teeny bopper stuff. I was past that point in my life. But I've seen a few episodes as an adult or later on in my life. I've seen a few bits. I had one girlfriend that really liked it, and I think I was forced to watch a couple. But nothing wrong with the show. It just wasn't my thing. But he wanted to be a filmmaker. That was like his big thing, is he wanted to be a director or a filmmaker at some point in that show.
No, he did. And the thing about Dawson's Creek is it's a good show. If you go back and watch it, it's a really good show. But you know, I think it was a double-edged sword, right, for him on that role, because like it's obviously a breakout role, and it definitely launched him being able to do a lot of other stuff later on down the road. But it does kind of set him up as being kind of like the teen heartthrob type, and
Yep.
sometimes that's a double-edged sword because it's yeah, you're gonna get some roles, but yeah, you're now kind of you know pigeonholed into a genre of sorts, and people have trouble
Yeah.
sometimes seriously in certain roles because you were Dawson Leary on Dawson's Creek, and everybody sees you on the magazines and stuff like that. So now you're that guy instead of being like, oh, I'm James Van Der Beek, and I have a lot more to give each role that I'm in, and can do a lot of different types of acting. He is going to use his acting chops quite a bit in a movie called Varsity Blues in 1999, which
Oh yeah.
which is
Yep. Classic.
really great film with a great cast. It's him and John Voight and Paul Walker and Scott Kahn, and I mean it's pretty loaded. And the movie's phenomenal for anyone who has never watched Varsity Blues. Highly recommended, and I would assume that if anybody's really into football, they've already seen this movie. But yeah, I mean, if you're into football, Varsity Blues is a must watch, of course. And then he's going to do some stuff, and of course he came in and did some Saturday Night Live work. But one thing about James Van Der Beek is he always had a great sense of humor, right? Like he knew what
Yep.
Dawson's Creek was, and so he was like he does Scary Movie, and he's playing the role of Dawson Leary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's this kind of
Yep.
thing. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He comes in and he plays the role of, uh, James Van Der Beek, of course, with him and Jason Biggs from American Pie. And if you've not watched, if you've never seen Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the stuff that they're in together is phenomenal. I mean, Kevin Smith did a great
Yep.
job to get these two guys in and to do this scene, and it's phenomenal. He does the movie Texas Rangers, which he plays Lincoln Rogers Dunnison in 2001, and which is a pretty good western with a lot of younger cast members. And then he's going to do a movie that I know you liked at the time, and I do really like this film. It may be his best role of all time, and that's The Rules of Attraction. If and this is
Dude,
this
that movie is brutally brilliant.
It's brutally brilliant. It's amazing. It's raw as can be. It is not a huge hit, so I would assume that a lot of people haven't seen it. And this may be James Van Der Beek's best film, and his best role. It's completely different than Dawson Leary. He was obviously wanting a role that was going to be something a complete departure from what he had done, and it is. And he's kind of dark and brooding in it, and yeah, we had actually gotten a couple of comments about people when I put up about James Van Der Beek on our social media. We had a guy from Michigan, Jabir, who commented about this movie as one of his favorites that James Van Der Beek was in as well, saying that it was one of his favorites because it was a darker role, and it is without question. And then he does a
Hands
lot of
down.
yeah, without question. It's an amazing role. I mean, you still like that movie Rules of Attraction, right?
Yeah, I just haven't seen it in years, but yes, that was a fundamental. That was a gut punch movie. Like it's one of those ones that just sits with you. It's good. It's really, really. There's some very clever cinematography in that movie. It's a very good movie.
He does a lot of stuff, on TV, a lot of different roles, of course, after that. And he's in a movie called The Plague as well, which is, kind of one of those kind of a lower budget horror, but not a bad film. There's a couple of great spots on Criminal Minds and the TV show Ugly Betty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's got this great episode arc, like 4 or 5 episode arc on One Tree Hill as well, where he comes in, and which is One Tree Hill was kind of like a later Dawson's Creek, almost in a lot of ways, right?
Yep.
It's kind of
Yep.
the same umbrella, and then he's on the TV show Medium, which my parents absolutely love that show. Um, he's in the TV miniseries The Storm, and one of the things that I really and he has a lot of great roles. Plus he's in Law and Order, Criminal Intent. He does a great episode of the TV show, and I really liked this show called Franklin and Bash, and it was on
Oh
TV,
yeah. Yeah.
and it's him, it's Breckin Meyer, and Mark Paul Gosselaar, and that I just thought those three people on the screen together was pretty amazing. Like Mark Paul
Yeah.
Gosselaar
It's fun. It's very fun.
are very similar in a lot of ways in how they kind of came up, and so I thought that was always kind of a fun episode. And then again he's on Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and then he does a TV show that I absolutely love. And if people haven't seen it, it was only on for like a season or a couple seasons, but it's don't trust the bee in Apartment 23, which the bee is supposed to be don't trust the
Right.
bitch 23. It's he's playing himself in this in this
Yeah.
in this show, and he's absolutely phenomenal. And it's so funny, and it's him and Kristen Ritter. And I worked with Kristen on a movie in Los Angeles called The Hero with Sam Elliott, and she's great. But it's really 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 hilarious, and I know people can find that show because it's out there. I see it all the time on different streaming sites, so I know that's attainable. Um, he's in the movie Labor Day, which was cool. He does
Yeah.
he does a lot of he's got a huge role, a huge main role on CSI Cyber. So that was kind of a big role for him
Yep.
as well. And he's in the movie Downsizing. Um, he's got the TV series that comes out. It's kind of short lived, but in 2017 called "What Would Diplo Do," which was pretty good. And I know it was short lived, but it was actually pretty entertaining. Um, Pops in and does an episode of Modern Family. Comes back and does Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which is phenomenal. Does a voice on Vampirina for like 60 episodes as
Yeah,
well.
it's a kid show.
Yeah,
I've watched that too. I did not know he did that voice.
he
Yeah.
did it.
It's crazy.
And then does the TV show, the new one called Walker, of course. Did a couple episodes on the TV series Overcompensating, and then he did the Sidelined movies to close out his career. I think he's got maybe one more posthumous credit that's coming as well. But I mean, again, another beefy resume guy who had a lot of great work, and I know tons of people have just absolutely sent a lot of tributes out for James Van Der Beek, and I know he has a GoFundMe as well. If anybody would like to donate to his family, because he had 6 kids, and a wife. And I think one of the things I want to say real quick about this, because there's been some of these GoFundMe's that have been out for like celebrities and stuff. I don't think everybody quite understands what happens in this industry. Um, so you can be on a show like Dawson's Creek in the '90s, and that show's not on a like a true major network, and you're making money off those shows. Don't get me wrong, you're making money for the for the few years you're there, and depending on what kind of royalties deal you have, you'll make money and everything. But there could be a spot in this in our industry where you don't work for a while, and you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
living off of what you were able to make before you kind of stopped working. And he has a big family, and not every job you get is $1 million job. Some of these guys come in and do roles for on the cheap. Like he might be in a Kevin Smith movie, but Kevin Smith does lower budget movies. You know what I'm saying? So they're probably
Right.
getting like slightly above scale or something like that. So that kind of stuff happens. And so if you're willing to throw a few bucks at a GoFundMe for some of these great stars that you like, I have no problems with that. I mean, I think that's an admirable thing to do, and they've given so much of themselves at different times, and we can always help each other out. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think there's some people that get upset about that, but I don't. I personally don't.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever get mad at anybody that after the fact. It's not like, it's like anything else. Like every business, in this case, every business sometimes hits hard times. In his case, he is the business. So whenever he hits hard times, his entire family unit takes a punch. It's not like anything else. So, it's always a thing. I know that old Steven Spielberg, I believe I saw an article said that he gave like 25 grand to their family, which was a very nice gesture of him to do that kind of thing, because I'm sure that helps them out. So, it's one of those things. If I always think of it this way, is like, watching the show does help pay their bills, but if you want to give them, especially in this instance, if you want to give them a little extra gratis, then especially when you're helping his family, it doesn't hurt. Like if you enjoyed Dawson's Creek, or you loved, Varsity Blues or Rules of Attraction, and you think, I mean, I'm sure $5, $10. If everybody did $5 or $10, you would have a chunk of money that would help their family out, because now they have lost revenue. So how are they going to make a living? So they got to figure all that stuff out too. I think a lot of people miss that side of things, but
100% agree. And plus, cancer treatments and things of that nature. I mean, um, not everyone has. I don't know what his insurance situation was and all that, but cancer treatments are extraordinarily expensive, especially when he's had it for a year and a half or a couple of years. So, um, you know, the world helping each other out is not a bad thing on an end note there for
not
me.
one bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've listed off a bunch of stuff. There's some homework if you want to celebrate any of these individuals that have passed, and celebrate their art when they were alive. There's a bunch of stuff. We threw them up there for you. And again, we'll next week, or next episode rather, we'll get to our regularly scheduled programming. We'll return back to where we were, and we'll keep going forward, and we'll explore that space together. In the meantime, Tony, any final word before we send it off?
No, just be good to each other, because you never know when you won't see them ever again, and you know we just need to do a little bit better in society about taking each moment and understanding that each moment's precious. Peace, everybody.
There we go.